Hello and welcome to another video. Today we are in the equipment storage and we're talking first aid kits. Now, as an outdoor instructor and as a avid bushcrafter, I do carry quite a bit of first aid equipment, and I do have a variety of different kits that I use for different situations, ranging from small cuts kits to full group kits with everything that you need to be able to look after a group, particularly when they're using lots of sharp tools. So we'll cut to the intro and I'll see you right after that, and we'll take a dive into these kits that we've got here. See you in a moment. When you're outdoors and further away from help, first aid kits really are an essential item of kit to have with you. But what you have in the kit gets tailored according to the activities that you're doing and your own level of competence. So if I'm going to go out for a walk in a local park, I'm obviously not going to take anything massive. I might just take some insect repellent and some bite and sting relief, or just go with some plantain. I might not even take anything at all. But if I'm going, say, if I was someone who's going mountain biking in the mountains, I might carry something totally different. Now, the majority of what I do is bushcraft, and the majority of the bushcraft work I do is with groups. Now, bushcrafters, you're using tools such as knives, axes, saws. All of those have the potential to cause serious injury, sometimes even life-threatening injuries. So with that in mind, I've developed a system of 3 kits that I have around most of the time. So the first of these is a small cuts kit. This typically sits on my belt whenever I am doing activities with groups involving knives, because inevitably there will be a cut, and that's, to me, part of the learning process as well, is you've got to kind of experience something like that to know what not to do. My job as an instructor is to reduce the severity and reduce how often it happens. But as I said, there will likely be a cut. So rather than having to rummage in a big first aid kit, it's quick and easy. I have some tools and equipment, first aid supplies ready at hand. So there's no need to panic or rush or rummage through a bag. It's all there, ready to be used. Then I have a slightly bigger first aid kit. This is my personal first aid kit, and I'd recommend everyone has one of these in their bag, particularly if you're going out on your own, and it should have the essentials for dealing with injuries when you're on your own and covering a wide range of minor to somewhat major injuries. So this is the kit that always goes with me. It lives inside my bushcraft bag. It's with me all the time. And this is stuff that, as I said, I would personally use. And then I have the large kit bag, which goes with me whenever I have a responsibility for more than just myself. So whether it's a group camp with a couple of friends, or a bushcraft weekend, or even just a forest school session, this has absolutely everything. It even goes away on holiday with me, pretty much lives in the van. It's an all-rounder, everything I could possibly use. So we'll start at one end and work our way through. I'll have a look at what we've got in these kits. So our first kit is this minor cuts kit. So it lives in this little Life Systems pocket first aid kit, and as I said, it clips to my belt. And it's really simple. Got some cleansing wipes, got some plasters or band-aids in America, and some finger plasters, and then some gel. So that means I can clean my hands, I can clean the wound, and then depending on whether it's further down the finger, so if it was a injury to a knuckle, I can wrap it around there. Or these, if you haven't seen them before, these are really handy, these butterfly shaped plasters. So what you do is I may as well demonstrate. I'm here. Okay, so they come in this shape, and all you do, peel the backing off. It goes over the tip of the finger, either way. So if it's a cut that's right at the tip of the finger, you fold it over that side, pull the other side clear, and it has these little wings that fold around the side there. Because those finger end cuts are just really tricky to get a good plaster on, and this saves making a whole big mess, putting all sorts of plasters on top of each other, so one over that way with one over that way. This is just a quick and easy way to get a plaster onto a finger end. As I said, this isn't to deal with anything major, and with the deeper finger cuts I'll be going to the main first aid kit, but just for the vast majority of small cuts, this is perfect to have just on your belt. Moving on up to the next kit, we have my individual first aid kit. So this is something that travels with me, as I said, in my backpack all the time, and is designed for basically handling basic first aid for myself, and if I happen to come across anyone in need. So it's limited, but it's reasonably comprehensive. So in no particular order, we have some sets of gloves, protection. I've got a small finger bandage, crepe bandage. I have this little set of plasters with a syringe in there, so I can so I can irrigate the wound if I need to. I've got a CPR face shield. It's pretty obvious. Some eye wash, saline eye wash. As I said, this is for me, and as I'm using heavy tools like axes and whatever, I do have an Israeli compression bandage, so that should handle the vast majority of bleeds. If it can't be handled by Israeli bandage, by pressure bandage, then I'm in a lot more trouble, and I probably need to go to tourniquet. And so then onwards, we've got some tape, pour tape. I said this is for me, so I have some comfrey ointment, which is great for bites, stings, so on. Have a small mirror, because it's handy to be able to see if you have an injury on your face or something. It's handy to be able to see it. Got some burns gel, some ibuprofen, which is the painkiller that I use most often, but I very rarely use it. Some safety pins, just because. Then I have 2 tweezers. This is a pretty common occurrence for me, is to get splinters or thorns or whatever stuck in fingers, and it's awkward to get them out with a nice pair of without a nice pair of tweezers. So I have a regular pair there, and then I have a pair of tick tweezers over here. So these are designed specifically for removing ticks, and it is a problem that we are dealing with a lot more these days. So it's well worth having. Then I have a foil blanket, cheap as anything, so it's just handy to have just in case. Sharpie, in case I need to record anything, times on tourniquets, patient's details, whatever. And then a pair of scissors, always handy. Like I said at the start, first aid kit is largely developed on your particular needs and also your competencies. I have been trained to use Israeli bandages and tourniquets, which is why I have them included in this kit. I know what to do with them, I know the risks, I know the dangers, and I know the problems with not using them. So that's why I have included them in my kit. I wouldn't normally offer comfrey cream to anyone else because it's not a standardized medicine, but if they're a good friend, whatever, then I might hand it to them. Otherwise, in a professional capacity, I don't offer comfrey cream to anyone. It's mostly for my own use. Let's say it's a small but handy kit. I very rarely dip into this because I usually have a stash of plasters in a different place that's slightly more accessible, just because, as I said with the cuts kit, it tends to be 90% of all injuries can probably be dealt with just plasters and maybe occasional bandage. You're good. So here we have the large group kit. Now you can see this is quite comprehensive, and the thing is, this kit covers everything from just your basic forest school sessions to spending several days in remote areas. So it's designed with both initial first aid, minor first aid, all the way through to traumatic injuries and stabilizations of casualties over a longer period of time. So we'll kind of rotate clockwise around it, and you'll recognize some overlap to the kits that we've seen before. So first area over here is all of the minor first aid equipment. So we've got, again, our cleansing wipes, we've got our different types of plasters, we've got a whole lot of safety pins, which I still don't know why I have in the kit because I've never used them and I don't really see myself using them in the future, but they get tossed in with pre-made kits just to bump up the numbers. So, well, why not? They don't weigh anything. Tweezers, as I said, really important. Blister plasters is a bit of cushion that's really useful if you're going out on hiking trips. So that's just your basic small injury first aid. Then we go over to this corner. This is mostly kind of add-ons to this sort of kit. So we have our triangular bandages there, have a whole lot of emergency foil blankets, enough for at least a couple of people, and then various bits and pieces of tape to hold it all in. Then moving over into the center of my kit bag and where all of the big stuff goes. So here we have our dressing section. So got large, mediums and small dressings, so I can make sure I've got the right size for the wound. Got a whole lot of burned dressings. That's a pretty common injury around campfires. Got gauze swabs for packing wounds. Lots and lots of finger dressings. So with the main dressings out of the way, move over into the far corner here, which is basically medicines and so on. So I've got some IBS relief aspirin, good for heart attacks, so on. I've got paracetamol. You can never have too many packs of tissues, particularly if you're working with children. And then this is an empty box because I do need to refill it. I use it a fair bit. Here's just some bite and sting relief. Could really have used it the other day, and we used up a whole tube, so got to restock on that. It's important to have a system for restocking, whether you have a notepad in the top where you just note down everything you use after a session, or whether you write in your accident book and then you redo the first aid kit. It's good practice to restock every time you use something out of your kit. But it is difficult. It is difficult, and sometimes it takes. I tend to overpack and tend to get more stuff in here and use it as a storage for first aid. So that way, if I use a couple and I forget to replenish it, then I know I've still got enough to keep me going. Then we head into the center with some more trauma-related stuff. So we've got lots and lots of gloves. This isn't even half of what I've got. I just didn't pull it all out of the bag. Got some shears, good sturdy shears. A little bit of morale booster. It's a reusable hand warmer. Just keep little hands warm. Lots of syringes, again, wound irrigation, so on. Goes with the eye wash. And then we hit our central kit here. These are the items that most first aid kits won't have. Like I say, I'm looking more at stabilization. I'm looking at working with people in the field further away from help. So we have, again, Israeli bandage and tourniquet. If help is a couple of hours away, those can definitely save lives. And then we've got two monitoring devices. So we've got a blood oxygen and a blood pressure monitor. So both of those will give you vital statistics when you have a casualty that you're waiting for help and you're checking to see how stable they are and checking their condition. It'll give you indications of whether their condition is deteriorating or staying pretty much level. So you've got to hope those numbers don't drop. And thermometer, so looking at fevers and so on. If you're away from conventional help for a little while longer, it's good to have kits. And then I've got a proper big pop-up face mask. These are really good, and they're a bit bulky, but if you're going to have a big kit anyway, I'd hardly recommend one of those. It really beats fussing around with the little plastic like sheets, little plastic squares. Really good. And oh yeah, missed these Melalin. I think I've got that right. These are for covering large areas. So say, you know, the kind of scrapes you get if you come off a bicycle or whatever and you end up with, called it road rash, just lots and lots of scrapes all over. That's just nice to be able to cover a large area and keep it clean. So that's pretty much the whole kit, and this, as I said, all lives in that bag and comes out with me whenever I'm doing any group activities. So there you go. Those are my main first aid kits. Now, as you can probably tell from watching that, I'm not a big fan of pre-made kits or pre-bought kits. So you can go plenty of places and they'll sell you a first aid kit and they'll say whatever, it's a 30-piece kit and like 20 of those pieces will be safety pins. As I said, you have no use for them. And as the thing is, they supply you with some very basic first aid equipment, but they tend to miss out the important stuff to you. So if you're doing forest school, you will likely need burns dressings more than you will need face shields. You should probably still have a face shield, but as an example, what are you going to use on a day-to-day basis more often? You're probably going to use more plasters, you're probably going to use more burn gel than you will like triangular bandages. So you should really build a kit around what you need in your particular circumstances and your training. I have been doing first aid courses for it's got to be about last 9-10 years now. So every 2-3 years updated. I've been on plenty of first aid courses. So last one I went on was an advanced first aid course, and we talked a lot about stabilization, and that's when I added in the electronic equipment, the blood pressure monitor and the blood oxygen monitor. Just things that I can use to keep track and things that I've had the training to use. There's no point in having a full surgical kit in your first aid kit if you don't know the first thing about how to do stitches or stitch someone up. There's always those freak scenarios that people talk about, where that basically if I have all the kit, then if there's a doctor that turns up, then they'll have the equipment to be able to use it. I prefer not to rely on luck. So develop the kit that's right for your circumstances. Put some thought into it. Go, what are the injuries? And this is, if you're working professionally, this should be part of your risk assessment procedure. So you're looking at your risk assessment, you're going, okay, what injuries am I showing likelihood? I'm going to be using knives. Okay, small cuts, large cuts, trauma. I'm going to be using axes, trauma kit. I'm going to be doing things at height. I'm probably going to need splints and so on, things that can stabilize major breakages, or I need to look heavily into diagnosing brain injury. So you work to your skill level and to the activities that you do. Even if you haven't, I think everyone should do a basic first aid course. Everyone should do a basic first aid course, and if you're going away from the city anywhere, I think if you're going outdoors into the wilderness, I think you should have a first aid kit. Even if it's a really basic one, just the essentials. I think it's your duty as a citizen, as a member of the public, to be prepared, not just for yourself, but so you can help others. That's my personal philosophy. But yes, you should have it with you. It's no use if you don't have it. Just some essentials, and stay safe. That's all I have for you today. So I'll let you go now. You've probably heard me ramble on long enough, but you can tell it's something that I feel really strongly about. I feel like you should be prepared to help other people. You should be prepared to look after yourself and take responsibility for your own safety and well-being. And a first aid kit is a good step towards that. Righty, thanks for watching, and remember, make the most of every day. See you next time.